we're starting to get a clear picture of how this Western Conference may play out this season. Game 5 in OKC, Daigneault finally pulls Josh Giddey from the starting lineup, something I think we've all been anticipating, and he went to that in this pivotal Game 5. The problem is Isaiah Joe and Cason Wallace went a combined, 3 of 15 from 3. And, I'll give Giddey credit. He did play. He came off the bench, and he is seemingly unfazed as far as his confidence goes. He's fighting to stay in this rotation and get his minutes, but the shooting woes continued. And as good as Cason Wallace is defensively on the ball, he's small, right? He's like, I saw him at Vegas. I was like, dang, he is like maybe 6 foot. Maybe 6 foot. Now, he's 6'1", but he's small. And he has a hard time, I think, getting off that shot against this size and athleticism of Dallas. And I had said that early in the series when OKC had that bad shooting game. I think it was Game 2. I was like, well, the eye test says that it was Dallas's defense. It wasn't OKC just missing shots. And I think that that's played out throughout this series now. The other thing that I had brought up before the series even started was the Cason Wallace, Derek Lively trade, right? And here we are again, headed into Game 6. And what does this series look like if you swap those two players? If Derek Lively is their starting center alongside Chet Holmgren, because he and Gafford are controlling the paint, man. Like the size and athleticism of this Dallas team. And again, contesting the 3. Now you've got Kyrie and Luka committing to giving effort defensively, closing out. Derek Jones Jr. is probably the best perimeter shot contester in the league. His ability to fly out and recover and swallow up a 3-ball or even a second or third jump where he gets pump faked off the line and then he's able to recover and still contest the shot. And then again, Gafford, Washington, Lively, all super bouncy, they're getting funneled into the paint, and it's not hard to see why OKC is struggling offensively. It's the size and athleticism of this Dallas Mavericks team. I wanted to talk a little bit individually about some of the Thunder struggles outside of SGA, who is just unfazed, right? But Chet Holmgren has gone from shooting 37% in the regular season from 3 to 27% in the playoffs. Now, obviously, his window is tighter. All guys' windows are tighter in the playoffs. But Chet has the out, not up problem with his release. I've slowed it down. I've looked at the tape. I've examined it. And what I mean by that is the ball will get too far out in front of Chet, and it starts to move out instead of up. And he doesn't have a particular high release for a shooter. We know, 7'2", but have you noticed how many times someone's got a fingertip on one of his threes in the playoffs? It happens like way more than it should for a guy at his size. And again, the ball starts to move out before it instead of up. And it is a symptom a lot of the times of a guy with super long arms. Those long arms, they start to move out and he can't get it up. And, it's, at this point, he's not going to raise his release. But, that's been an issue. Right. And any high school player looking, to improve. And that would be one of my biggest pieces of advice moving forward. I know it's a huge ask, but try to get your release as high as possible and as quick as possible. That's going to allow you to be more comfortable shooting in different high pressure environments. And in this Thunder team, and a lot of the young players, again, they just have low releases relative to their size. And so Chet, it's coming out before it's going up. And that's how I describe it as a coach too, is don't worry about it getting to the hoop. Trust that it'll get there. Worry about the arc. Worry about it getting up. It'll get there. That would be my advice to Chet. Now, I know Draymond was really enjoying himself last night, just clapping at anybody and everybody, all his enemies, right? But I thought he did nail the Jalen Williams take, the J-Dub take, where he essentially said in the regular season, Jalen Williams feasted on bad switches. They would, they'd run all these handoffs and screen actions and then find a switch to attack or one that was poorly done. And he's good at finding the seam in the bad switch. And now come playoff time, teams are buttoned up. There's not as many bad switches. And then you combine that with all the size in the paint, and he is struggling, right? And he's another guy, not a particularly high release. And what that does is like when it's, I know what most of you watching the channel, you're gonna say, well, Alk, Steph doesn't have a high release. Steph is an anomaly, right? He also has the quickest release we've ever seen. So that's what neutralizes it being a low release. But these low release guys, Halliburton comes to mind, and his is more than just a low release, but it's just gonna limit your shot creation. Especially like if you want to play with your back to the basket. J-Dub doesn't really have that game yet, or at least he hasn't flashed it. And as far as like creating off the dribble, he has a lower release. And so, they're young, right? This is going to be, I think, considered a successful season for the Thunder, no matter how this series goes. The number 1 seed, they get plenty of playoff experience, and maybe more importantly, figure out who they are moving forward. The Giddey move is interesting because is that a sign of them like saying he's going to be the odd man out? I think what's maybe more important is finding out who that true second option is going to be for SGA. If we're starting to see J-Dub's limitations in playoff basketball, maybe he's better suited as a third scorer and a third option, and maybe he and Chet's roles will kind of switch moving forward, and Chet will be the 20-plus point scorer, Jalen the third guy. They're both so young, who knows? I'm not saying Jalen can't figure this out. This is his first playoffs, and he can't become that second scorer. But right now, I think you're seeing he's not. As far as the rest of the roster, look, Lou Dort just has too green of a light for me. Like it's admirable how confident and aggressive he is and effective he can be. But like some of the shots he takes, particularly from the three-point line, those are for shooters. Shooters have ultra green lights. He's got I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg because they're struggling offensively, but don't love his shot selection. As far as Dallas's side goes, boy, Kidd is a menace for that Jaden Hardy. Just popping him into the series. Surprise, here's Jaden Hardy, who hasn't played in the playoffs, probably outside of garbage time. And Exum has been like one of the better stories in the league this year and been a big contributor for them. And Hardy comes in and it works out. The kid, to Hardy's credit, he was like, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, you want to talk about confidence. And he brought kind of just an extra punch. And it made OKC think. I don't think they were ready for it. It was just as much shock value. And I think what that is just Jason Kidd's elite instincts at basketball shining through as a coach. Like just his instincts to go with that. As far as Kyrie and his new style of play, defending, distributing, I really thought he was due for a bigger offensive game because, one, I thought the Thunder were going to try to do a better job taking away the lobs and the roll man. Clearly they didn't. How many dunks did Dallas have last night? I mean, there was like a 70-foot lob from Luka. They kept creeping on that baseline and just losing him in the dunker spot. But I will say this about Kyrie. Look, and there's obviously a cost to the energy spent defending. Something looks a little off offensively. He doesn't seem to be getting the normal lift he gets when he gets downhill or when he gets to his jump shot. Maybe it's spending all that energy on defense. Maybe it's the youth and athleticism of OKC. Maybe it's a mindset. And this is what's so tricky about being a lead player in basketball and why Luka and Jokic are so special in particular, where a lot of guys, it's either or. At certain phases in the game, it's like I'm either looking to distribute or I'm looking to score. There's no gray area. And I think maybe part of it is Kyrie, he's come out with this distributing mindset. And so now he's kind of struggling to switch over to being the scorer. You saw a couple plays, right, where he could have finished at the rim. He's like, I don't want to call it hunting assists, but again, it's kind of a black and white mindset rather than just taking what's in front of you. And Luka, again, was so masterful at like, oh, I might shoot, I might pass. Oh, like he's just literally waiting to see what the defense is going to do. And then he takes what he wants. But again, if Luka and Kyrie are going to commit to the defensive end and the way they're winning right now, these role players are going to continue to step up. I think they're a tough out for anybody left in these playoffs, right? Like I think they're a tough out as long as they remain healthy. Again, Derek Jones Jr. They're getting so many. I don't want to say unexpected contributions, but unexpected contributions, right? Now, I like full transparency. I wanted a Thunder Wolves Western Conference Finals simply for the freshness of it, right? Like it was just going to be exciting and new. But then Jokic, Thanos snaps, and here we sit where it looks like, you know, Denver's going to come out of that series, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I do think Dallas presents a more competitive matchup against Denver, not just for experience, but the size, right? When you look at this Thunder team, like who do you put on Jokic, right? That's been their issue all year, and it was like, hey, if you run into Denver, it might be a problem for you, or the Lakers. Well, so that's why at this point, I probably want to see, as fun as the Thunder season has been, I think Dallas deserves probably to move on here as far as making the next round competitive. As far as the Rudy roast that's been taking place in the last 48 hours, I've taken part a little bit. I had a breakdown of it, but I get it. Like, look, you're not going to stop Jokic. I think we all understand, okay, he's unstoppable. To me, the Rudy problem is offense. The Rudy problem is offense. Anthony Edwards has stopped trusting Rudy Gobert on the offensive end, and Denver knows it. Hence, we're going to hard trap you every time. And I think the obvious move for all of us sitting at home on our couches at least is more Naz Reid. He's got to be the pressure valve for those traps for Ant Edwards, right? And that leads me to Underdog Fantasy Picks, y'all. I am 14 signups away from hitting this goal. It's a $10 deposit. Use the code Alchemy. You would be greatly supporting the channel, man. But yeah, for my picks in this Game 6 tonight, I really like the Naz Reid pick. Now, granted, I make my picks off what I think would, like, from a coaching mindset of what I think is going to transpire. And so sometimes guys just don't do, you know, like yesterday's picks. Case and Wallace got plenty of shots. Kyrie was more aggressive, but they didn't execute it. But you imagine Naz Reid has to play more. They have to kind of sell out. I know the Wolves' defense has been their identity. They've got to sell out on offense because the defense has been broken. Like there's no answer for it. They have to get better at offense. Is Conley going to play? But I really like Naz Reid's higher than 9.5 points. Granted, he gets the opportunity, and there's less Rudy. And then for Denver, I think that this is almost a fishy one here. Justin Holiday at 3.5 points. I like the higher on that. He's been money for them. Maybe is he getting less minutes to? I don't know. Dude feels like he hasn't missed a shot. He's been a big part of their second unit. So those are my picks for Underdog Fantasy. Again, if y'all could support the channel, 14 away, and then I could stop bugging you about it, but it would really help. Quick thoughts on the end of this Boston-Cleveland series. Listen, it's not Boston's fault that they've gotten this path, and perhaps by the time they get to the finals, if they get to the finals, they'll just be so much more of a fresh team because of their path. That will enable them to finally climb the mountaintop here and get this championship. But they don't look or feel like a championship team right now, right? They're kind of missing that it factor is not the right word, but it just doesn't feel like it, right? It just doesn't feel like it. So we'll see. But have you noticed this trend? I think it started with the Suns when they got swept. Right when a playoff team is being eliminated or has been eliminated, like that night, all the tea gets spilled. Like whether it's through the agents, like anonymous sources, whether it's from the team or the player's side of things, all of these things start to come out. And that's what happened with Cleveland. And apparently, it turns out all three of those star players don't really want to be in Cleveland. That's what I read from it, right? We already know the Donovan stuff, right? And it comes out that he was frustrated with the lack of maturity and seriousness from his teammates. Someone who follows that team, let me know who that's about. Is it Garland? Garland does look like a little ass kid, right? But I don't know. Then it comes out from Clutch, Garland's side. Hey, if Donovan's going to get the bag and they're going to build around him, then we're going to look to get traded. And so now you may have like an Orlando or a San Antonio sniffing around Darius Garland, who his contract, if you've taken a look at that, I don't know, when you consider his durability and just what he's looked like. And then this was the one that was like, well, okay. Turns out that Evan Mobley on draft day told the Cavs, his agent, hey, don't draft him. He wants to go to OKC. And so again, it sounds like all three of them are like, no, you know what? Like, y'all rebuild, send me out of here. Y'all like do what you do, no hard feelings. Like, I gotta go. And so I know that the focus is going to be on Donovan Mitchell, and the price tag of what he will potentially go for is probably going to be a lot, right? And I know this is a super long shot, but if I'm Mike Dunleavy, I at least make the call on Evan Mobley. Now, you've seen me sit here and question his juice, right? His toughness, what his offensive ceiling is. That said, if you fit him into this Warriors system, I mean, he seems like the ideal big of what they've been searching for so long. As far as he is an anchor defensively, a versatile, modern center, and then he's not thirsty to score. I think he would be content in the split actions and setting the screens and feasting off Steph and Klay's gravity. And so, look, I don't know. I know it sounds like a long shot. Like, why would they do that? But like, I'd give up Kuminga for Mobley. I would. And I know a lot of y'all gonna boo me for that. Hit the thumbs down for that. I know, I get it. But and it's simply for the fit in the window of what's right now. But it probably cost more than that. It cost draft capital, Kuminga, but I don't know. Cleveland seems like they're all of a sudden in disarray, so I would at least keep an eye on the Mobley situation. Donovan Mitchell, it just makes us smaller. So I don't know about that one. But yeah, I hope I'm wrong. But to me, I see a Minnesota Timberwolves team that has lost trust in each other. And you saw them trying to do it themselves and get frustrated. And so if they're going to continue to roll out Rudy Gobert, it seems like Denver again, the Thanos snap from Jokic. Another thing is get Kyle Anderson out of there. He's been horrible. You can't have Gobert and Kyle Anderson on the floor at the same time while they're trapping Ant. Like they've got to make some sort of rotational adjustments. Could you dust off TJ Warren? But I think the answer is more Naz Reid. And hey, maybe you get a 40 or 50 ball from Ant tonight. And you say, hey, okay, they get it. But the problem is it doesn't look like Denver's going to do that. They're going to say someone else beat us because we know y'all don't trust each other no more out there. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.